Hi everyone, hope you're doing good. This is my album review for Gojira's Fortitude. Now this is their 7th album under Roadrunner Records. I'm going to do this album review a little differently this time compared to the others that I've done. I've got it on my laptop, so instead of me looking down like this, I'm going to be looking sort of here instead. Now let's just start briefly with the band. If you don't really know the band, they're a French sort of progressive metal band. They started out in '96 as a sort of melodic death metal, tech death metal band with some progressive elements in there. And then as they went on, they got more progressive, and as they went on even further, they sort of dropped the melodic death metal stuff and sort of added more groove metal and post metal to their sound. Now, yeah, let's talk about this album. Now, there's lots of groove metal and post metal stuff in here. Very different to their other stuff. It's very, very sort of different sort of shift for them. I like the guitar tone from the album. Joe Duplantier his vocals are excellent on this actually. I like his riffs as well. Some of the riffs he wrote on here is really cool. His brother Mario Duplantier, his drumming is just absolutely brilliant on here. I mean, it always is, but yeah, on this album, top marks for his drumming. Christian Andrew, the second guitarist, does a couple of lead bits, which is cool. Yeah, some pretty cool stuff. I'm not really sure if he wrote any riffs or not. And Jean-Michel Labade, I don't know how to say that. Labade, probably. Yeah, the bass player, great stuff. I liked his bass tone for this album. Yeah, now let's just get straight into the standout songs for me on this album are Born for One Thing, Newfound and Sphinx. Them three songs are by far the best on this album. Let's start with Born for One Thing. Love the heavy riffs at the start, that harmonics riff, and then it goes into the main riff of the song. Had like almost like a Megadeth style kind of sound to it. I really like the chorus, how it goes, and the breakdown in the middle with the pinch harmonics is really cool. The drumming, the vocals, everything on that song's really great. Newfound, I think that's my favourite song on the album. I love the riffs. I love the grooviness and the heaviness on the riffs. The chorus is really cool. The drumming is excellent again. The vocals really like. The middle riff with the pinch harmonics is awesome. And yeah, the end riff as well is really cool, progressive sounding, heavy as well. And Sphinx, that's a great song. The opening riff again, brilliant, classic Gojira, string scrape in there, love that. His vocals are a bit more sort of heavier, a bit more brutal on that song, really cool, love that. Another really cool chorus, and the middle instrumental bit is really cool, and the drumming's great once again. Now let's move into the rest of the album. Amazonia is track 2. I like that track. It was close to getting in the top 3. I love the groove and the riffs in it. The Royal Blood riff with the drumming in the middle is really cool. And yeah, there's a slightly deeper meaning with that song, sort of about the Amazon rainforest and stuff like that, which is cool. And it definitely has that Brazilian ness about it, you know, the native Brazilian sort of instrumentation going on. I really like that. I think it's a really cool, groovy song. Another World is next. I thought that was alright. I like the start. It reminded me of La Fante Sauvage esque riff going on. The vocals are really cool. But then after that, sort of halfway through, towards the end of the song, it sort of just falls a little flat. It's the post stuff. I'm not a massive fan of it. And yeah, it just falls a little flat and sort of doesn't really go anywhere, which is a bit disappointing. Hold On is next, and that song's okay. I don't really like the start that much. It goes on way too long. It's a bit strange. I'm not a massive fan of it. But once it gets going, it's actually a pretty cool song. The riff that they do is really cool, kind of groovy. Yeah, and they kind of there's a riff in the middle which is very reminiscent of the Born for One Thing sort of Megadeth style riff, which I thought was a little bit disappointing because they've just nicked their own riff. But yeah, there's sort of a solo-y bit where he kind of taps it, which is pretty cool. The vocals are really good, and yeah, as I've listened to it more, I've actually liked it a bit more. But yeah, the first bit's still a bit disappointing for me. And then we move on to Fortitude, which is basically an acoustic version of the chant. It sets the song up well, but I still don't like it. It's a bit of a waste, really, because you could have just put that at the start of chant, really. But quickly moving on to that song, I don't like it. I think it's the worst song on the album. I think it might be one of the worst Gojira songs ever. I just don't really like it. That hook for the chorus is really annoying. It gets on my nerves. Although there is a riff in there that sounds very sort of Black Sabbath-y, which is cool, but sort of that whole stoner vibe, I'm not a big fan. And even the guitar solo that he does in the song's not that great. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that song. Next is Into the Storm. And that's a really good song. I really like that one. That could have been in the top 3 as well. The drum intro is really, really cool. The drumming on that song is probably one of the best drumming on the album. Brilliant, brilliant. The intro riff reminds me a bit of La Fante Sauvage. And there's cool riffs throughout. The chorus is really cool. Yeah, that's a really great song, that one. The Trails, I'm not a big fan of that song. That's one of my least favourites. The first riff is pretty cool, but then the rest of the track I don't really like that much. It's a bit long and a bit slow. Kind of just goes on and doesn't really do a lot. The vocals are alright, but yeah, that song's just not that great. And then it finishes with Grind, which I think is actually a really cool song. Really nice end to the album. The opening riff is really cool with the harmonics and the Gojira string scrape again. Some really cool groovy sounding riffs, heavy riffs in there. The vocals are good. The end riff's pretty cool, very progressive. It just sort of fades out with that riff, and they do it for about 2.5 minutes or something. But yeah, and the bass at the end is really cool. Does some really cool bass bits in that end bit. Yeah, and that's the album. My verdict on it is it actually took me a couple of listens to get into it. When I first heard it, I didn't really think it was that great, and now that I've listened to it a few times, I actually think it's alright. It's nowhere near as good as La Fante Sauvage, but I think it's alright. There's just a couple of things in there that I don't like, a couple of tracks that I don't like, a couple of tracks that I think are average at best. Yeah, if this is the route they're going down, I'm not really sure if I could kind of follow that. I don't really know. The score I've given it is a 7.5 out of 10 because yeah, it's all right. It's not rubbish, but it's not brilliant either. Right, so that is my album review of Fortitude. I'd love to know what you thought of this album and what your favourite Gojira album is. For me, I've only listened to that and La Fante Sauvage, and La Fante Sauvage is number 1 at the minute. I have no idea what the next album review is going to be, but there'll be lots more content coming out in the coming weeks anyway. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, subscribing, commenting. Much appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep it metal.